What's up guys, it's Alex here, back for another video, and this is the final overview, the last town that we haven't done an overview on yet, and that is Stronghold. So once again, this is not going to be a demonstration, we're just going to be covering strengths and weaknesses and talking about some basic strategies on how to play Stronghold. Once again, another town that I'm not necessarily that great or experienced with, so if you guys happen to have any tips on how to play Stronghold that I don't cover in this video, some other strategies that you utilize, I would love to hear those. Leave your comments below. Alright, so as far as Stronghold goes, it is not a bad town, but it's also not a great town. Like, under the right conditions, it can be pretty good, but it does have some things going against it where, towns like, let's say, Dungeon are much better in most cases. So let's start with the strengths. So first of all, you do have pretty good heroes. Barbarians are pretty decent. You usually start with Terexor. Some people start with Gretchen. You get a lot of attack as barbarians. You have Craig Hack, the offense specialist. You also have Dessa, who is a logistics specialist, not that bad, but as a battle mage, Dessa doesn't get a very good stat progression or skill progression. And you also have Gundula, who's another offense specialist, but also a battle mage, and she is also not going to get a very good stat or skill progression. So other than that, you do have strong units. You have units that hit really hard, and that's kind of the motto for a barbarian. It's hit hard, hit first, and don't get hit. And we're going to talk more about that when I get to the weaknesses. But it is a strength that you can do a lot of damage really quickly with barbarians, or with stronghold units and barbarian heroes in general. You also have a couple of advantages in terms of the objects that you see on the map. You have these corpses, and you also have these like wagons, and wagons that look like this and like this. And those can give you artifacts, and they can also give you resources, right? And in a lot of cases, you can actually get a good amount of artifacts as Stronghold because of these wagons and corpses. Actually, it is probably the most common to assemble things like Armor of the Damned on Stronghold just because of that, because you get a lot of these extra artifacts. So that's certainly an advantage. You also have a couple of interesting objects on the map, like the magic spring. Not sure if I have one here. Okay, I actually don't see one on this map, but oh, there it is. So this magic spring, it actually allows you to double your mana, so it's like the dungeon mana vortex, but it actually has 2 hexes where you can double your mana. So it works once per week, right? Same as the mana vortex, but you can actually visit it twice. So, because of these 2 separate hexes. So it's actually one magic spring can give you 2 double manas in 1 week, right? So it's both a plus and a, in a way, this magic spring has advantages and disadvantages from the mana vortex, right? So the fact that it is external means that, for one, you're not going to mess up the double mana with a side hero like you do on Dungeon in a lot of cases, like when you have a hero in the town and at the beginning of the week you can't get the hero out and you end up just using your double mana on some side hero that you really didn't want to use it on. But at the same time, because it's external, sometimes it's hard to reach. Like in this case, it's kind of far away, right? So it's not necessarily the most convenient one to reach. So, I would probably still prefer the dungeon mana vortex, since it's in your town and you can build it conveniently. And there's another object, this watering place, which, is kind of interesting. It allows you to get plus 1,000 movement next day for the price of the rest of your movement for this day. kind of a weird mechanic, but it can come in handy. So, let's say like I was over here and I was doing this hive, and then I just had barely enough moves left to reach the watering place, then it would make sense to use it, right? If I was here with full moves, then it wouldn't really make sense to use it, right? So, but still, an interesting object nonetheless. So another advantage that Stronghold has is it does have some pretty decent units. So the Wolf Raiders, they hit really hard, as I've already mentioned. Behemoths also have an ability to ignore the, whatever they're attacking defense. The regular Behemoths 40% and upgraded ones 80%. So, they're really scary if you get hit by them. You have Thunderbirds, who are really good. They are fast. They have that lightning bolt ability, and they are pretty tanky as well. So they're quite good as tier 5 units. You have ogres, who are relatively tanky themselves as well, and you also have cyclops, who are tier 6 shooters. They're really good, and obviously if you can build cyclops and find some cyclop caves, that synergizes with pickets that you can do as stronghold as well. And one more advantage that Stronghold does have is the fact that it's pretty easy to build behemoths. I believe they only require the cliff nest to actually build them. So you can feasibly build behemoths on actually turn 2 if you happen to have enough gold and enough resources. But usually that's not going to happen because you're usually going for the Wolf Raider upgrade as you start with Tyrixor, and for that you actually need the Goblin upgrade. So usually you go Goblins, Wolves, then Cliff Nest and Behemoths on day 4, which is still relatively early, right? So, to build the upgraded behemoths, it's also not that challenging. They are expensive, but they don't really require a whole lot of resources other than crystals, well, and of course gold. But it is relatively feasible. You do see ancient behemoths more often than a lot of other upgraded tier 7 creatures. And I suppose what we should also add to advantages is the fact that you are able to do pickets. I wouldn't necessarily say that easily. You can't necessarily take pickets that are too big. Comfortably with your day 1 army or upgraded dogs on day 2, you can do a size 2 picket. But with that, you can snowball and, maybe take more pickets, etc. So it is feasible. Not necessarily that, not necessarily the most viable or the easiest. It's not like Cove where you can take even a maxi picket on day 1, but still possible. Okay, and that's about it for the strengths. Now let's move on to the weaknesses. We're going to start with some minor weaknesses. So first of all, you do have the terrain penalty. It is not that bad. It's only 25%. It is the least penalized terrain that does have a penalty in the game. So it's certainly not like swamp or anything like that, but it can be noticeable when you're like farming hives or angels or something like that. So it is a slight disadvantage. You also can only build a level 3 mage guild, so that's certainly a disadvantage. You cannot build Town Portal or, Dimension Door Implosion, whatever. If you're going for it in your main town, you would have to rely on building them in your side towns. And actually, Fortress is also only level 3, so that's certainly a disadvantage. But in a lot of cases, as Stronghold, you don't really rely on magic. You usually just rely on might and, trying to kill your opponent before you get hit. And that kind of brings us to the main disadvantage that Fortress has, is the fact that its units are really squishy. It is like the entire concept of barbarians and stronghold and their units as well is hit hard, hit fast, and don't get hit. Kill your opponent or kill whatever you're fighting before they have a chance to actually hit you. And that really is the problem, because in a lot of situations you can't do that. Like, let's say you're fighting something that's really fast, like you're doing hives, for example, or you're fighting, black dragons, like black dragons is your break or something like that. You are going to need to take hits, right? And Stronghold, with their heroes and their units, is just not that good at tanking, because yeah, their units are squishy and their heroes are usually going to have more attack, and not that much defense. So, for that reason, it is not that easy to do hives. It is not necessarily that easy to do conses. Conses are doable under the right conditions, but situations where you do have to take hits are, it's not that easy. You can still do hives. You can do a size 2 hive, but you would be bleeding away either your goblins if you're starting as Gretchen, or your wolf raiders if you're starting as Tyroxors. So you gotta kind of make that judgment call whether or not it's going to be worth it, whether or not you're going to be able to build that wyvern power stack. If not, in some cases you may be even better off trying to save your wolf raiders and trying to build a power stack of that, and carefully try to break with that. They do hit really hard and they have that double attack. So that pretty much does it for the weaknesses, and so let's talk about some general strategies on how to play Stronghold. In a lot of cases, you do want external dwellings. You do want to look for behemoth dwellings, and you want to usually try to build behemoths in your town as well. And then with that, try to go for hives, maybe for pickets or conses, other creature banks. If you cannot get a behemoth dwelling, you want to at least try to find maybe a cyclop cave, and try to build cyclops in your town. Maybe a cliff nest, and try to build a cliff nest and get upgraded thunderbirds. And with that, you can do pickets. Thunderbirds are pretty damn good units. So usually you will be relying on some sort of dwellings, and even if not any of those, maybe at least some additional orcs or ogres or goblins or wolf raiders, just something to give you enough units so that you can take that first object. Like, let's say if you get a few additional external wolf raider dwellings, you'll be able to take a size 3 picket with that, and then that can help you snowball something else like hives or what have you. So that is usually what you're going to be relying on as Stronghold. If not, if you cannot find any dwellings, well, you're going to be limited to probably either taking a size 2 picket or a size 2 hive and bleeding away a lot of your army for that size 2 hive. The size 2 picket you can do without bleeding away too much, but if you get unlucky with morales, like I said, the units are really squishy, and that goes for the goblins and the wolf raiders. So if the wolf raiders and the pickets happen to morale and hit your wolf raiders or hit your goblins, you will lose them really quickly. And an additional disadvantage is that the wolf raiders and the pickets, they are going to be on their native terrain, so their speed is going to be 9 instead of 8. So that makes it a little bit more challenging as well. Okay, so that about does it for the overview of Stronghold. So, I will end the video on that note. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, if you guys, disagree with me, or if you guys have strategies of your own that you would like to share, do leave those in the comments below. I would love to hear, because it is a town that I also want to get a bit better with, and I do need more experience with it. And as always, check out my Twitch stream if you guys would like to see more Heroes 3 content in English. And I will have the link in the video description below. And that's it, guys. So thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.